What has your training been like leading into Leadville?
Been doing 4 by 15 minute stuff. I've been at altitude up at Tahoe. So I've been at altitude the longest ever in my career. So since June 24th, I think, when I flew up to Copper for XCNATs, I've been at altitude since then. So for me, that was kind of the biggest, I guess, change is obviously, the 10 to 14 days gets you what most people call acclimatization, but it's kind of base acclimatization. It gets you most of the way there, but there's still physiological changes that are happening all the way out to 6 weeks, but even like multiple years at altitude that your body adapts to. So I was curious to see if I would notice a big difference after 6 weeks. And I feel like it was the right call so far.
It's definitely been interesting. 3 weeks ago, I did the third episode of the Impossible Route with Jeremiah Bishop and Tyler Pierce, the vegan cyclist. And so that was a 50-hour week or like 50 hours, 5 days. So I got a lot of volume in there. And then I basically took a week completely off after that. Now I just finished a solid training block solely on the mountain bike in Crested Butte, Colorado, place I've always wanted to go. And like, it's hard to beat the riding here. You just want to ride all day. And there's not much, I don't think there's much better preparation I could be doing than just spending long hours on the mountain bike right now. But now it's time to rest. So this week is super mellow. Do some openers on Friday before race day.
So specifically with Leadville, like I mentioned, like I did the two big events leading up to that. So it's like, month before Leadville, I did 7 hours, roughly 15 minutes at Belgian Waffle Ride. Big, big day. Then I made my way into Colorado and tried to get used to the altitude and then, hit it with TrainerRoad 100, which turned out to be 8 hours, 20 minutes. We took we got lost for 20 minutes probably. So added a little extra race time. And then since then, I haven't done tons of long rides, but I try to increase my intensity a little bit just to like test the body at that elevation and see how that race effort really feels like. And this week, really leading up to Leadville, I think I'm just gonna rest quite a bit. I definitely feel a little tired from from the training, from the racing, from a little bit of travel, and I just want to be fresh going into this last big event, this last 100-mile event. So a little bit of resting and a little bit more pre-riding on the course. I definitely would like to see a couple more sections.
Trying to add a little bit of volume when I can, but still trying to recover. It's been this like balancing act. I feel like the last couple of weeks after nationals, like peaked for nationals, hit BWR, and then rested, trained a little bit, did TrainerRoad, and then we've just been kind of resting and training. And yeah, it's been interesting, but I think it'll work well.
Well, it's really interesting because I had 8 years ago what I thought was a great race at Leadville for me at the time. I was still kind of in my multi-sport competitiveness racing triathlon, but I think I was 7th place in 2013 and had dropped 50 minutes from my Leadville time the year prior, which to me was a lot more than I ever thought I was able to do. And so I took a look back at my training, kind of in my mind thinking, well, I was in really good shape then. Let's see if I'm doing anything, if my training looks anything like it did back then. And I was surprised actually to see how low my cycling volume was, and especially compared to how it has been over the past 6 months this year. And so that actually gave me a boost of confidence. And I thought, maybe, there's something to be said now just for, at least double the amount of volume from from 2013. And I wonder what that might do or look like, especially now as I'm just cycling. I'm mostly just cycling for my training. I'm not swimming or running. So I'm mostly curious to see. It's a little bit of an experiment, like 8 years later and different training, what that might do. But I also am cognizant of the fact that with altitude, it's just sort of sometimes you show up and you feel great and sometimes you feel terrible. You never know exactly what that day might bring with the fact that I'm not going there. I always get there at the last minute. I just don't have the time to, you know, go to altitude for 2+ weeks or something. So I'm just my approach is really do as best as I can with what my life constraints will allow. And at the end of the day, I have a lot of things going on. I have a daughter who's 1.5 and business, my husband and I have businesses and work. And so it's important to me. I'd like to do well, but it's also not the only thing I have going on in life. And so it's like, I just have to do the best that I can with what I'm given.
Not as good as I would have liked, honestly. It's been a long season with a very busy summer due to all the spring COVID cancellations. And while I am very much honed in on Leadville, I have pretty much been nursing a peak fitness from Unbound through Oregon Trail, Crusher and the Tusher, Belgian Waffle Ride, the Rift in Iceland. So I can feel like I'm kind of starting to crest that wave, and it's kind of just like plugging holes in a sinking ship right now and just trying to hold on for another week. That said, it's 1 day, 2 days for lead boat. And you can always kind of like rest just enough to kind of like show up for a day. It's not like we're doing a week-long stage race. But I'm kind of just going to rely on all that race fitness. I mean, 2 weeks ago was the Rift in Iceland, and it was a 7-hour brutal course race. So that's kind of been the big thing. And then just for me and my lack of technical skill against the mountain bike purists, I am riding my mountain bike more than I ever have.
Well, ever since Nationals, which was like second weekend in July, I did do a 100-miler close to home in Butte, Montana, called the Butte 100. It's a 9.5-hour 100-miler, like pretty slow and really tough, but more or less it was training just to practice dialing in my nutrition and pacing. And so that was on the 24th of July. So in the last few weeks since then, it really was more or less about recovery while still kind of keeping the body open, but mostly just endurance riding. And then I've been here since the first weekend in August. So I'm going into my second week at altitude here. I'm staying at Copper Mountain. And same thing, I did one structured ride, but aside from that, it's really just been about just relearning boundaries and perceived effort as to what it feels like to ride at altitude. So in order to accomplish that, rather than like having structure based on numbers, it's really just been endurance riding and course check and just making sure that the body is rested and recovered and feeling good.
It's been, I think as professional athletes, we're always pushing the limit. And so it hasn't been super different. I think the biggest change for me is actually the way I'm viewing everything mentally. So I'm really focused on the intervals towards the end of the ride. I'm really thinking about everything fatigue resistance wise. And I'm just really picturing those long climbs in Leadville. I live in Salt Lake City, and so a lot of elevation per ride is not an uncommon thing, but definitely viewing that differently, thinking about, okay, this is X amount of feet, the race is going to be this many more feet, and things like that. And then of course, getting in a good taper, resting up, but also knowing that I'm coming to elevation, even higher, high elevation. And so being cognizant of that and playing with pre-riding the course and also making sure I'm getting plenty extra recovery since it's a little bit harder to recover up here.
The last few weeks have been, longer rides, some pretty big hours, honestly, and trying to, get up high and sort of feel what that effort feels like at altitude. Around here, we're Rollins Pass, which is 11,600 feet, 500 feet, something like that. So not quite Columbine height, but definitely sucks when going hard up there. And then this last week has been a fair bit lighter. I'm just sort of trying to taper things off and don't want to go into it super tired.
Oh, you mean you have to train on the bike? Yeah. Yeah, well, I did a massive race at sea level, and it was super flat, which at first I was like kind of debating if that was going to play into the training, but we decided that that was actually perfect to kind of help with like some of my weaknesses. So I did, we'll just call it a week-long training camp at sea level, AKA traveling around Iceland. And then I came back to where I live in Durango, which is luckily a really awesome elevation. So I sleep at about 7,000 feet, and then I can get up to, I've been doing a couple big training blocks up above, I should not say big training blocks, a couple of big rides above 11,000 feet. And it's just kind of right in my backyard. So honestly, not a ton of structure. I'm just like going out and riding with my friends and my dog in the high country, and did a couple hard efforts up high, and we're calling it good.
If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.